Mom demands I end my wife's pregnancy to spare her golden daughter's feelings. Now she's furious I refuse to let them near my child after sister shared this. My sister and I are 3 years apart in age, but my mother has always treated her like she is a temperamental toddler, and I guess that's why she has turned out to be so spoiled, even at her taxpayer age. Right now, she is 27 female and I am 30 male, and my wife and I are expecting a baby. She and I have been married for 2 years and together for 5, and we are really looking forward to becoming parents. We found out about it a couple of months ago and decided to tell our families first, before making any big announcements. Her family was extremely happy for both of us, but of course, my mother had to dig out something negative from this. My dad congratulated us and left it at that, but my mother decided to call me back a couple of hours after we told her about the pregnancy and told me that she did not think that going ahead with the pregnancy would be a good idea. I was really surprised because my mother loves kids and I knew for a fact that she had been really excited about the potential life of a grandma when I got married and even at my sister's wedding. So this reaction was quite unexpected, and when I asked her why she would say something like that, she started coming up with arbitrary reasons for us not to have a baby right now. She told us that it would be financially straining for us and even said that since both of us were quite career-oriented, it would be troublesome for us to decide who would stay home with the baby when both of us had to go back to work. I told her that we had already thought about those things and we had enough savings to take care of a baby now since we have been working for a really long time and it's not like we are just winging it at the moment. My wife and I both work in the same company and we do get paid maternity and paternity leave, and also when we finally do have to go back to work, we figured we would either just hire babysitters or get the family to help out. Neither of those reasons that she was citing seemed like a good enough reason to actually get rid of a pregnancy, and I knew that there was something that she was not telling me, so I kept pushing until she finally told me the truth. And of course, it turned out that she was doing all of this for my sister. Apparently, my darling sister had been planning to get pregnant this year too, but unfortunately, for her, it hadn't happened yet. She was already quite upset about that, and my mom felt that it wasn't the right time for us to have a baby because if we started our pregnancy journey around the same time as her, it would become quite emotionally draining for her. Here's the deal, my sister and I really don't get along. We used to fight a lot while we were living together, and then I started college and I left home, and it was a huge relief for both of us. And because we don't get along, I don't particularly care what she thinks about certain things, my wife's pregnancy being one of those things. If she can't handle the fact that we are pregnant and she isn't, that sounds like a problem and not something that I have to deal with. But of course, my mom likes making my sister's problems a bigger deal than what they are so that it can eventually become everybody's problem. So I told my mother that it was sad that she hadn't gotten pregnant yet, even though she had apparently been planning to get pregnant, but I'm not going to get rid of my wife's pregnancy just to spare her feelings. That was an insane suggestion, and I told her that, for her sake, I was going to pretend that she never even said that so that I would still be able to respect her as a member of my family. However, instead of taking it back and letting that go, she decided to double down on it and started telling me that my sister had actually been planning to get pregnant for a really long time and she and her husband had been trying, but it just hadn't been working out for them. The news of my wife's pregnancy was just going to break her, so I needed to be mindful of her feelings and not go through with this pregnancy because it would simply break the family into two. The most concerning part of all of this was that she actually thought that this was a valid suggestion, that I should get rid of my wife's pregnancy just because my sister would feel hurt. I knew that there was no point in arguing with her, so I decided to just say okay and then I hung up. But that was just because I did not want to take that conversation further. I did not actually have any intention of doing what she said. After saying that, I blocked her everywhere and I even told my father what had happened, so he apologized to me on my mom's behalf and told me that he would make sure that she did not try to contact me again. So that was how you dealt with the situation, and since then, my dad has stayed true to his promise and has made sure that my mom did not contact me after that. For the past 4 months, we have not been on speaking terms and life has been pretty peaceful. But then, we decided to make a public post on social media, announcing our pregnancy because we thought that it was finally time, and that's how my sister found out. I don't regret making that post because we wanted to share our happiness with everyone, and so we did. If that made my sister upset, tough luck for her. And I know that it did make her upset because a couple of days ago, she and my mother decided to show up at my house to talk about our family and how we were going to go ahead after everything that had happened. If I'm being honest, I had never considered my sister part of my family because she had never behaved that way with me. Like I said, she and I were never very close, and after we left home and started living separately, there was nothing forcing us to keep in touch with each other, and so we did not stay involved in each other's lives. The only time we met each other was at parties, on the holidays, and we did invite each other to our weddings, but that was just out of a sense of obligation. And I was very upfront about all of this, so I told my sister that I really don't consider her close or a part of my family, so there was no reason that I thought it was important for me to mention that my wife was pregnant. I also knew for a fact that had it been her who got pregnant first, she never would have bothered to tell me about it first, and I would have also found out on social media whenever she finally decided to post it. As for my mother, I told her that she had made her bed and now she had to lie in it because what she had said to me when I decided to share the news of our pregnancy with her was horrifying, and I did not want to entertain negativity like that in my life. I told them that right now, even if they were here to apologize to me and make things right, it would take me some time to process everything, and I wasn't just gonna forgive them then and there and give them a second chance. I was very brutally honest with them because I did not have the patience to deal with them at the time, and after I was done talking, my sister broke down and started sobbing in the living room. That came as a bit of a shock to me because I really did not think that this would hit her so hard since we had never been close, and I really don't know why she would even expect me to be all fake and sweet with her. My mom consoled her, and she was the one who told me that recently, after planning and trying for a baby for almost a year and a half, they had to come to the conclusion that she was dealing with infertility. The doctors could not find a cause as to why she couldn't get pregnant, and they just had to wait it out, which was quite disappointing because she was ready to become a mother in her head. It was just not possible for her to become a mother physically at the moment. She had been shattered after she found out, which had happened a couple of weeks ago, and then I had posted about my wife's pregnancy. That had made her even more upset, on two accounts. The first reason was that she was unable to get pregnant, even after trying, and here we were, celebrating our first pregnancy. Of course, it made her feel a bit bitter and resentful, and the second reason was that she had to find out about her own brother's fatherhood from social media since I hadn't contacted her in person to tell her about it. It made her realize how we had drifted apart because of our personal differences, and now, she wanted to try and fix things. I went a bit soft after that, but I still managed to stand my ground. I told her that I appreciated the fact that she had come all the way here to fix things with me, but I still needed some time to process these things and decide whether I wanted to give our relationship a try or not. I also told her that I was really sorry that she was infertile, and I wished that the pregnancy would happen for her at some point, but right now, it was impossible for me to prioritize my family because the only thing that mattered to me was my wife and the pregnancy. Everything else could be dealt with later, and I did not have the emotional bandwidth to deal with my sister and my mom at the time. So I requested them to leave, and I told them that I would think things over and contact them in a while, but for now, I thought that it would be for the best to just let things be the way they had been for the past many years. I thought that I was being fair enough because I really did not have the capacity to deal with the two of them, since I knew for a fact that there was a lot of friction between us, and I just wasn't in the mood to pretend that everything was fine and happy. Even if they had apologized, what my mother had said was horrifying, and my sister had also been really distant from me for the past couple of years, so it would take a lot of hard work for us to fix our relationship, and I was not willing to put in that work at the moment. Especially given the fact that my wife was pregnant and I wanted to prioritize her, so I think it should have been a given. But the two of them got offended at that, and started calling me selfish and said that I was being narcissistic by refusing to forgive them and pretending to be too busy for them. To be frank, the reason that I wanted them to leave quickly was because that day, I had to take my wife to the doctor for a regular checkup, and I didn't want to get late. So I wasn't just pretending to be too busy, I actually was too busy for them. When they got offended, it really ticked me off as well because I really didn't think that I had said anything to make them act like that. I thought I was being perfectly reasonable, and I had been quite polite to them as well. And by picking a fight with me at that moment, they were also delaying me for the doctor's appointment for my wife, so I didn't even want to argue with them. I just kept asking them to leave, and I did not even deny anything that they were accusing me of, even though I really didn't think that I was being selfish. But then, they said that they had only wanted to be a part of my child's life, but now, because of my disgustingly selfish and self-important behavior, my child would be deprived of an aunt's and a grandmother's love. My sister told me that I was doing a disservice, not just to my wife, but also to my future kids by declining to forgive them and trying to give our relationship a second chance because of my massive ego. The implication that I was going to do anything that was not good for my kid was really insulting, and that was the point at which I got offended, and I told her off instantly. First and foremost, I really did not think that their involvement in my child's life was going to make any difference because my baby is going to be loved regardless. And secondly, I really don't think that not allowing them in my child's life is going to be that bad because a couple of months ago, my mother had literally been telling me to get rid of the baby just so that her daughter could have her moment and not be overshadowed by anyone. As for my sister, she has been horrible enough to me in the past for me not to want to forgive her, and now, because of the way they reacted, I was even more sure that I was doing the right thing by deciding not to forgive them and not allowing them to be part of my baby's life. Had they been decent and good people with even half a brain, they would have left when I told them that I was not ready to forgive them just yet and that I needed my time to think about things, but they decided to force their decision on me and started making me the bad guy just because they were not ready to accept the fact that they might not be involved in my baby's life, which was their own fault, to be honest. After that, the fight started to escalate and my wife had to get involved. Until then, she had stayed in her room because she really did not have the energy to deal with my mom and my sister and the drama that they were causing, so I had asked her to stay out of it because I really did not want her to stress herself out. But everything got so loud and confrontational that eventually, she had to come out of her room to request my mom and my sister to leave, and that really made me very upset because the last thing that I had wanted was for my wife to get upset and stressed out, and that's exactly what they had done. I felt really bad for her and I felt extremely angry with my mom and my sister, so I decided to hit back at them once and for all. And I guess I kind of said something that I can't take back, which I feel really bad about. They were shouting at me over my wife's request to get them to leave, calling me selfish, telling me that I was letting my ego get in the way of a happy family and that my kid would be most unfortunate because of a narcissistic dad like me. And I said that at least I was going to be able to have a kid, and I can't say the same for my sister, and I knew for a fact that she had only bothered to come here because she knew that she was infertile and now she wanted a relationship with her future niece or nephew, so she could act like a parasite and try to sneak her way into being a mother, which is just pathetic. And to my mother, I said that the only reason she was here was that she wanted to encourage her daughter's delusions, and I told her that she was an even bigger failure at being a mother than my sister because in spite of having 2 kids, she had failed to be there for either of us and all of this was her doing. My statements really shocked them and both of them left immediately afterward, but not before letting out a string of curse words against me. Even my wife was pretty shocked by the things that I had said, and she said that she didn't necessarily disagree with what I said, but at that moment, it must have really hurt for them to hear it. Of course, I feel terrible for saying all of that because I'm really not the kind of person who takes joy in hurting other people, but then, I feel like I had to say something because they were making me out to be the bad guy and I did not want them to get away with it. So am I the a-hole for retaliating at my mom and my sister by talking about my sister's infertility and telling my mom that she failed to raise both her kids? Update 1. Hey, thank you everybody who took the time to comment on my post. I had that fight with my mom and my sister about 3 days ago, and since then, the only people that I have spoken to about this are my wife and my father. Both of them are pretty much of the same opinion, that what I said was a little harsh and definitely a little extreme, but given the context of what was going on, it was totally justified. I said it in the heat of the moment and it's enough that I feel bad about it, but I don't need to apologize for it because it's not like my mom and my sister have apologized to me for anything that they have said. And they are the ones who were actually responsible for the fight, because if they had just left when I asked them to, none of that would have happened. But they decided to stay on and fight with me and push me to the very edge, which is why I ended up saying those things. It's a huge relief for me that the people who matter the most to me don't think I'm the bad guy for saying those things, even though I do feel bad about saying it. However, since they feel like I don't really need to apologize, I'm not going to be apologizing. After they left, I don't know if my sister had anything to say about me, but I know for a fact that my mom has been ranting about me for days now, ever since that fight happened. She has been talking my dad's ear off about it, and my dad has been defending me all along, which I'm really grateful for, but it has only made my mom even angrier because she thinks that my dad is encouraging my bad behavior. I don't understand how she doesn't see that it's the exact same thing that she has been doing for my sister forever, and probably the reason why my sister has turned out to be the way she has. She believes that I owe her and my sister a huge apology because they were only trying to be there for me and I villainized them for no reason. It's funny because I feel the same way about them, so I guess it's just her word against mine at this point. Anyway, the bottom line is that they are not going to be receiving any apology from me because they totally got what they deserved. If they had not pushed me, I wouldn't have lashed out at them, and it's as simple as that. Like I said, my only priority is going to be my wife, and I'm gonna try and not let these petty things bother me from this point on. Update 2. So it's been a little over a week since I got into that fight with my mom and my sister, and I was trying to keep everything private by speaking to only my dad and my wife about it, but I guess they don't want to respect that. They decided to go public with it and made a post about me on their social media, where they only mentioned the things that I had said but did not mention the context in which I had said it. I'm not even kidding, there was just one paragraph, where they mentioned the comments that I had made, but there was absolutely nothing about what they had said, or we had gotten into that fight either. Of course, after that, I started receiving calls and messages from the rest of the family, telling me that it was simply not okay for me to be making below-the-belt remarks like this against my family and that they had expected better from me. A lot of them even asked me if this was true in the first place because they refused to believe that I was capable of saying things like this. I was shocked that they had posted that, and before I reached out to them, I decided to talk to my dad about it, and he told me that even he was surprised that the two of them had done this, and he was trying to talk some sense into them so they would take that post down, but he hadn't had any luck so far. I was furious that they had done this, so I decided to take matters into my own hands, and after speaking to my wife, I decided to post what really happened that day. I did not deny the fact that I had said those things that I was being accused of by my mom and my sister, but I also put it in the context of what had actually happened so it would at least make sense to everyone else. If they were going to try and seek sympathy from everyone else, I was going to make sure that people at least knew the whole truth. I spoke about their visit, I spoke about what my mother had said to me about my wife's pregnancy all those months ago and what had actually led to the fight that day. After I made my post and people started reading it, they started commenting in my support, and a lot of people reached out to me to tell me that they had been clicked to judge and they were sorry for it, but now that they knew the whole truth, they were dicey about whose side to be on. And that's fine, it's really not a problem with me because I know that what I did was nearly not as bad as them. I did not even need people to be on my side. If I had wanted sympathy from everyone, then I would have been the first person to post. The only reason I decided to clarify things was because I did not want any unnecessary hate to be coming our way. But I don't think that my mom and my sister understand the concept of that because it's been a couple of days since both of us put up our respective posts and they have been accusing me of being a self-involved attention seeker, which is really what they are and not me. They think that whatever they did still did not warrant the kind of reaction that they received from me, and the statements that I made were outrageous, regardless of the context in which they were made, but I don't think that the rest of the family feels that way. Anyway, I'm just happy that I was able to put my side out. Update 3. So a couple of days have passed since my last update, and today, when I checked my messages and social media in the morning, I realized that a lot of people had told me that my mom and my sister had taken down their posts about what had happened. I guess they had started receiving a lot of criticism from the rest of the family, which is why they were forced to make that decision. I don't think anybody was buying the narrative that they were trying to push, that I was just being an attention seeker and fighting for sympathy, and that's why I had put up a post in my defense. And everybody else also agreed with the fact that what I had said had been wrong. It was kind of justified given the circumstances. They couldn't take the heat, so they decided to take their posts down, and it felt like a huge win for me. I haven't taken mine down yet because I want to keep it up for a couple of days more, just in case they try to do anything funny. Another interesting thing happened a couple of days back. Shortly after I put up my post where I spoke about my side of the story, my brother-in-law decided to message me. Since I'm not very close with my sister, I'm not very close with her husband either, so we haven't really spoken much. It was pleasantly surprising when he reached out and told me that he knew that his wife was never going to apologize to me, and so far, he did not think that she had a reason to be either because he had only heard about her side of the story, but now that he had read mine, he didn't know what to believe. He told me not to talk about it to anyone and keep this between us, but just in case what I was saying was actually true, he wanted to apologize on his wife's behalf because ever since she found out that she was going to be dealing with infertility for quite some time and a natural pregnancy without IVF was not going to be possible, she has been kind of on the edge. It was clear that he was going through a lot from the tone of his message, and I really felt sympathetic towards him, so I told him that it was fine and that I was really glad that he was even reaching out to me to apologize. He seems like a genuinely nice guy. I don't know how he ended up with my sister. But I have honored whatever I had promised him, and I haven't spoken to anybody about it so far. Well, except for here, but I don't really think that's breaking the promise. Update 4. Hey, so it has been a couple of weeks since my last update, and recently, I took my post down. I figured that it had been left for long enough, and by now, everybody knows the truth. I also figured that I don't need to punish my mom and my sister more than they are already being punished because who they are as people is bad enough. I was speaking to my dad a couple of days ago and he told me that my sister and her husband are heading for a divorce because ever since she found out that she had fertility issues, she has been acting totally crazy. She had always been excessively pampered and entitled and a little insane, to be honest, but of late, it had reached intolerable levels. Apparently, she had become very toxic, and her husband had tried his best to tolerate it, but after a recent fight, he was just done. So she had come back home to stay with her parents, and ever since that had happened, it had been a constant soap opera at my dad's place. Of course, my mother is making sure that her daughter does not feel bad and has been blaming her husband for everything that has gone wrong by enforcing the belief that my sister can never be wrong about anything at all. My heart honestly goes out to my dad for having to deal with all of this. I felt pity for her too because she recently found out that she was not going to be able to have kids, and her husband is also leaving her now. The second one is definitely her fault, but well, I'm not that heartless, so I decided to take that post down. I'm still not gonna apologize for anything though, and neither am I going to reach out to them because I'm pretty sure that they have not changed. My dad has even been telling me that there is a lot of it should have been me and not my brother, kind of mindset going around in the house, with regard to the pregnancy. So well, I think it's best for us to stay away from each other. And as always, my priority is my wife, and as long as she's happy, I'm happy. So I guess it will be safe to say that right now, I'm very happy.